Hi, everybody. So sorry for the delay, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Our third mentor will be joining in 5 minutes or so, but we can go ahead and get started without her. So welcome to the adWISE Fall 22 Kickoff webinar. Today we'll be featuring three professional women in STEM and in different fields such as technology, medicine, and business. So what is adWISE? adWISE is a mentoring program created for female and non-binary students in 8th through 12th grade. adWISE helps connect students with a mentor in the career field of their choice to help guide them through their high school career. These mentors are professionals in STEM and business who will give their mentees opportunities and tips over the course of 6 months. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our first speaker, who is Ms. Sangeeta Shekhar. She is a group program manager of Xero 365 core platform. She has 19 years of experience in technical strategy and delivering end-to-end features in Microsoft services and products that span enterprise and consumer. She also spent 10 years in experience leading PM and engineering teams through multiple releases in Bing, Azure HD Insight, Azure SQL Database, and Microsoft SQL Server. She enjoys building high-performing, diverse teams with a strong customer focus and has a strong execution delivery track record. She mentors multiple women engineers and PMs across the country to help them grow in careers and become strong leaders. Outside of work, Sangeeta enjoys being a mom to a 6-year-old and 1.5-year-old Labradoodle who keeps her on her toes. So she can go ahead and get started.
Thank you so much, Sahana, for the warm welcome. Really appreciate it, and great to meet everybody today. Sahana, did you want us to do this in a question-answer format, or did you want us to speak about a particular topic?
Yeah, you can go ahead and get started about talking about like your career journey, your education journey, what like really helped you like pick like what you wanted to do, and just like any tips you can give the students.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for that introduction. So as Sahana just talked about, I've been in the software industry for about 19 and a half years now. Honestly, when I look back, I can't believe how time flies. It doesn't feel like 19 and a half years working. But let me talk a little bit about my journey here. And at any time, if you feel like you have questions, pause me. I went to school in India and then graduated with a bachelor's in chemical engineering, and then came to the United States for a master's, again in chemical engineering, but then found that, myself being constantly drawn towards my passion, which is to build stuff, write code, etc. And that's how I enrolled myself in a second master's program on computer science. So I did all the undergrad coursework and then enrolled myself into the second master's program on computer science. Right after my graduation, I joined Microsoft, and Sahana outlined my journey in various divisions in Microsoft, starting with SQL, then going to SQL's the database group, and then going to Azure, which is in the cloud, and then to Bing, which is a search engine, and finally now to Office 365 suite of products. Through all of this experience, I think at Microsoft, what it has taught me so far is that whatever you do, you need to have a passion for it. It's part about, what you work on. It's also part about how you work on what you work on, as well as who you work with. The folks that are, I found really successful in their careers to date are the ones that are able to generate clarity in any ambiguous situation, bring people along so that you can build software, build a solution collaboratively, right? And also generate energy and sort of rally the team forward towards a solution that everyone has kind of come up with. Over the years, I've played two roles. I've played the roles of basically being in engineering, which is mostly focused on how to build software, right? And now in the last 5 years, I made a shift to product management, which is mostly about what to build and why it should be built. And one of the reasons I made this change was in order to be a business leader in the software industry, it's incredibly important, in my opinion, to have a 360-degree view of the whole journey of, figuring out what to build, why it should be built by listening to customers carefully and building the right product for your customer and having the right product market fit. And then after that, transitioning into figuring out how to build it such that it is low cost, secure, reliable, compliant, scalable, all of these other amazing properties that software that all of these companies like Microsoft deliver. So having both those experiences really makes one well-rounded, and I'm enjoying this transition from engineering to PM and still learning a lot in my role. Uh, things I would advise you guys would be that constantly remain curious, right? Don't hesitate to try out new things, try out changes. That's how you challenge yourself. That's how you grow, right? Constantly remain curious to learn more, to try out new things, and that's when you learn more about yourself and you learn more about products out there, roles out there where you could have an amazing impact on whatever it is that you do, land up doing and excel at. A few years back, I met this amazing gentleman. His name is Bill Lamont. He's actually a psychologist and he's from California as well. So what he advised a group of women whom he was mentoring and coaching at that time is that every one of us is born with some inner talent and blessed with some inner talent. We just have to discover it. And once we are able to connect with it and discover it, and we find ourselves applying that to the maximum every day in what we do and how we do it, then you achieve true happiness. That was a really life-changing moment for me a couple of years back when I sort of had this internalization of, who I am and what I bring to the table and what gives me true happiness. And ever since then, I've been following Bill's words of applying my inner strengths. A lot of people refer to this as your inner superpower as well, to what I do and how I do things at work and sometimes even, at home. And that has gone a long way to really helping me to truly be successful and happy, right? The other piece I'll leave you with is as you guys get into your education and professional career, constantly surround yourself with people who see magic in you, who will bring out the best in you, who will encourage you, who will do open doors for you, who will mentor you, will sponsor and nurture you. That's again when in combination with knowing your strengths and your superpowers and applying that, as well as, surrounding yourself with people who see magic in you, I think you can truly unlock your full potential. So love to take questions if there are any. Great question. How can you network or connect with others? In today's day and age, the answer is hopefully, obvious online through the professional networks like LinkedIn or the social networks, etc. Very helpful in connecting with others. But even though the online world and the social media has brought us closer together virtually, nothing replaces personal connections. Take the time to go meet people. Take the time to go meet people is, so I would say professionally, if once you start, figure out who your mentors are and sort of go meet people. Talk to them about what you want to achieve. Talk to them about what they want out of that mentoring relationship. And then sort of go try and connect with them at a personal level first, and then at a professional level. And then you'll be able to get the most out of that mentoring relationship. The other piece I would tell you is don't hold back, don't be shy, right? A lot of us women hold back and feel like, we should wait for opportunities to come to us. I would instead say go reach out and project the best that you have in yourself and be curious to learn about the others as well. When you're genuine, when you're trying to network with people and reach out, the connections are usually better and deeper and more lasting. How do you always use your strengths? So hang on, before I go there, Bernice, did I answer your question? Was that helpful? Thank you. Jesse, going on to yours, how to always use your strengths even when it's hard? Oh, really nice question. Lots of times you'll actually find professionally that it's pretty hard to make progress, etc. Right? The first step begins with actually knowing what your strength is and knowing where potentially your blind spots are or your areas of growth is. That self-awareness is the first key, right, to knowing. Once you know, what I tend to do is I usually look at the situation and see, okay, what is the situation? And let's say we're trying to have a conversation about what to do next. And there's a lot of disagreements and a lot of opinions in the room. The first step I think I would do is to say, use your strength and say, hey guys, look, this is what we need to do. Are we aligned? Right? And then be open, be vulnerable about that and say, this is my strength. This is what I can bring to the table. Let's talk about what others can do. And so you guys carve out like roles and responsibilities where each of you has something to contribute to solving the situation that's in, let's say, a tough problem. And you realize what each of you brings to the table. And that's where you've built a degree of trust, a degree of collaboration amongst yourselves, at least in a smaller group, if not amongst the larger group. You can use that to actually push through a really hard situation. Once there is that degree of collaboration and trust in place, the next thing I would say is first try to baseline on something you agree on, right? Even if it's the bare bones minimum. And then talk through options of how to go forward from there and try to find the next layer of agreement. And then the next layer of agreement on top of that. So as you do that, if you're leveraging your strengths and leveraging also the other stakeholders' strengths so that they don't feel like it's only about you, but it's a collaborative effort, usually you'll be able to turn around situations rather effectively. But of course, every once in a while, there will always be people who are tough to deal with, tough to work with, etc. In those situations, having a one-on-one conversation with them and being really open, humble, and vulnerable to say, without being accusatory, to say, hey, I am struggling with working through this situation, and this is what I observe even when you're talking about the other person, and say, am I reading you right? Did you intend to be this way? How can we work together? That sort of thing builds allies. And really brings people out to sometimes to even realize that they're coming across in a way that they didn't even intend to you, right? And you can help work through that situation. Jessie, did I answer your question? Thank you. How do you say determined and resilient after failures? Good one. Is there a choice? I would say it depends, right, on the particular situation. Let's put it this way. Let's say there's a situation that you're in right now where the outcome is not exactly what you expected, and you want to influence for a certain outcome, but the outcome isn't exactly what you expected it to be. How do you still move forward? I think the first step of that would be to say, internalize, truly why we came to this scenario that we're in, why we came to the situation that we're in, what were the contributing factors to it, right? Both personally that you could have as you thought about it versus other stakeholders who were involved, other people who were involved, and as to why that situation didn't kind of turn out the way it is. Internalize, I would say, the learnings from those, right? And say, all right, I get it. This didn't go really the way we wanted it to do. That's fine. And the next time around, we're actually going to figure it out. We're actually going to go learn some takeaways from this and try and see how to do it differently. Right. Usually what I tell my mentees, and in every one of those situations, you should be able to come up with 2 to 3 things you and the group could have done differently. Sometimes it's even worth it to organize like a group internalization or a retrospective of what went well, what could have done differently, and how we could have pushed forward for a different outcome. Once you get to that point of saying, yep, this is just one instance, we've learned from this, I've learned from this, I've grown through this, it's an experience, the next outcome is not going to be like this, and I have to try again. I think you'll see that you'll be able to push forward, right? You'll be able to push forward because you'll feel like there is a learning in this and there was a win in this too, right? And it's not really a failure, it's actually a good experience, and then sort of take it forward from there. Did that answer your question, Siona? Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sangeeta, for this amazing talk and really just like the amazing advice that you gave to these students. So we're gonna have our next speaker go now. So let me, okay, yeah. So, okay. So Aubrey Kelly is the CEO of Rabble Health, a digital patient engagement company in Thousand Oaks, California. Ms. Kelly received her MS from the University of Colorado and her MBA from the UCLA Anderson School of Management. She is a 15-year pharma professional turned health tech entrepreneur. In her roles at Amgen, where she spent the last 15 years of her career, Ms. Kelly led multiple strategies and innovation initiatives, and she was responsible for the Office of Commercialization Excellence. She has extensive experience in oncology, inflammation, and cardiovascular disorders, improving access to clinical trials and driving life cycle management strategies. In 2017, Ms. Kelly's son was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia and had a successful bone marrow transplant at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. Her son's experience, coupled with her passion for improving patient access, inspired Ms. Kelly to create MyRabble, a patient engagement product line that decreases the burden of cancer. She is a board chair of the Advocacy Board of Trustees at Children's Hospital Los Angeles and a board member at Make-A-Wish Tri-Countries. So let's go ahead and welcome Ms. Aubrey Kelly.
Thank you so much, Sahana. Can you hear me okay? Great. It's my pleasure to join you all today, and I want to make sure it's value add for you as well. So I'll start briefly and then happy to jump into Q&A. So thank you for that quite extensive introduction. I think one of the things that I'll just add is that my career really took a huge pivot point, based off of the lessons and learnings that we got to share through my son's journey. And so, as I have an opportunity to reflect what's in the rearview mirror and look forward to kind of planting the seeds of what's in front of us, I just want to share that, we get to make decisions in our everyday lives, some macro and some micro, in terms of the direction, in terms of the individuals that we want to be, et cetera. And there are things that we have control over, and there are things that we don't have control over. And so oftentimes we get to, as young professionals, take advantage of experiences that we otherwise might not take advantage of, pivot, and just have enough awareness that sometimes these experiences land in front of you that you wouldn't otherwise have either an opportunity to take advantage of, or that you frankly don't even want to take advantage of. But sometimes life just does throw you curveballs, and being vulnerable enough to actually pivot and recognize that nothing truly happens overnight, except maybe lottery. And so we get to cultivate and carve out our space in terms of our responses and how we interact with others in a way that creates value and meaning, not just for others, but also for us as well. So, from my background of both biology as well as business, I felt very comfortable in understanding the biotech, biopharma landscape. And then when my son had his journey, I recognized that if someone was going to create a business model to be able to equip those who are diagnosed with the right information and right services at the right time to create value for not only those who are diagnosed today, but those who will be diagnosed tomorrow, I have the toolkit, the expertise, and the empathy as a pediatric cancer mom to actually try to make that change. And so, I would just highlight that take that leap, because you might not be able to see that net, but there always is a net, and you always have choices. So, excited to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and happy to answer any questions. How did I create my startup? Any advice for incoming entrepreneurship? So it's a great question. And sorry, I'm on my phone, so it'll take me a little minute to make sure I've got all the kind of chat pieces. So I created my startup actually out of frustration. And I think that there's always going to be kind of a guttural braveness that's required for anyone who's starting a company. Part of it is that you see things in a different way. You see how the world could be, or maybe a futurist from that perspective, and you have enough gumption, I think, to actually take the steps towards trying to create value in that step. For me, I was attending a conference in Boston, and a nurse navigator got up and said the statistic that on average it takes 17 years for new therapies to reach 14% of eligible patients. And the thing is that I know how to change that, and I know the value that that can create. And I decided that at that point I was in a point within my career and my life that I was able to take a little bit of that risk and see if I could go create something to solve for them. I think there's all sorts of different flavors of the entrepreneurial spirit. I would add that the macro environment for financing right now is really, really difficult. And so if, again, it's a matter of timing. If you're able to be, post revenue soon, then, the current macro environment hopefully isn't too much of a derailer. But if you have ideas of actually starting a company, it's good to take in all those macro and micro environment data points to say, is now the right time for you to take that leap? I left January of 2020, not knowing that the year 2020 was going to offer all the weirdness that it did. And, because of that, I was able to spend quite a lot of time, thinking about our position in the marketplace, our position in the ecosystem, and I'll just add that health tech is really complex. And at the end of the day, you need to know how to sell. You need to know who you're selling to. You need to know what you're selling. And in the context of health tech, most companies, mine included, doesn't want to charge, we don't want to charge patients or caregivers. And so really honing in and doing the work. So Hannah, you had highlighted, clarity. It's really important to do the work and understand that level of clarity as to what are you, what are you actually going to be selling? Are you a viable business? What does that look like? And that takes a lot of time sometimes to get to answer those very simple questions. I would also add that I got my MBA at UCLA. I focused on entrepreneurship. I was kind of an entrepreneur at Amgen, which is where I spent the majority of my career. And nothing can compare you for the wild ride that is entrepreneurship, but man, is it worthwhile. I have grown every single day in the process. And I am, again, incredibly fortunate to have been, slightly crazy, slightly financially stable enough to be able to take that leap. Go Bruins, exactly. And I would just, I would offer that if you're in a position to do it, I finally decided that what pushed me to try was that if I didn't, I was going to live with regret. And that's no way to live life, right? And so if you do have that entrepreneurial spirit, try, because you're going to be better off as a professional, as an individual, as a loved one, as a mother, as a sister, as an aunt, across the board, if you do take that leap. Because, I'll just share that I have 3 little humans, and my 9-year-old daughter, I haven't realized the impact that it's had on her in terms of seeing her mom actually go out and try her own thing. And so I'm just, for that alone, I'm just really kind of, proud that I ended up taking that leap and that faith. And again, so oftentimes, and I think all of us have those moments where we try something and we don't know if it's the right thing for us, and we can't necessarily see that safety net, but we go for it anyways. And it's really important to go for it, because there's always that safety net. There are always decisions that you can make along the way. So great question. And going back to chat now, the biggest hurdle, one piece of advice. And okay, so the biggest hurdle, well, I think, shamelessly, so I don't have a tech background, and I knew that technology needed to solve what I needed to solve. And so the biggest hurdle for me was actually trying to trust people in my, kind of new inner circle of stuff that I didn't know about, and I had to gain some real street smarts actually, and I think that's what the entrepreneurial spirit kind of offers is the the street smarts, the founders. I joke that there are founder stripes that you have to earn along the way. And I am now adept at Figma, at Atlassian products, at Confluence, at all of the I hear myself talk and I'm like, wow, I was really able to step up my game and be that curious learner and learn an entirely new skill set because again it's just the space that I'm in. And so I think that the learning curve is probably one of the most exhilarating, trying, the most difficult things as part of the entrepreneurial piece. But the other piece is that it doesn't break you down. Like as long as you have the really solid standings, the moral standings, how to navigate complex situations. It's the complexity that it offers. But I've really appreciated just coming back down to the basics, coming back down into kind of the just granular aspects of a business, of having standard sales and marketing, research and development, general and administrative, and being able to break down really complex problems into their core has given me just a really, I think, better perspective of kind of how things work and how things operate and the change that we want to create in this ecosystem. So great question. Hopefully I answered that question well. I'll go into the most important piece of advice. And it would be to acknowledge the challenge that I would be going into, that I would be stepping into, and that the gateway to joy is vulnerability, and to be open to meeting new people, to be able to get very quick about who to trust and frankly who not to, and to get somewhat selfish around the people who you create around your kind of inner circle so that you can move the mission of the company forward. I'll just share, it took me more than 12 months to figure out when there wasn't a good cultural fit early on. And this year it's taken me 3 days. And so you have to get super, disciplined around how you actually start moving things forward. So it's great questions. Let me go back to the chat. Balance responsibilities between work and home. It's a great question. So my life is crazy right now. Like there is no joke about it. So I've got 3 rugrats. I've got a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old. Each of them are playing soccer. I've got 4, soccer games today alone. Plus I'm, managing a career, leading a company, raising our seed round. And part of it is that I've been blessed with a lot of energy. So I feel really fired up and jazzed about having a lot of balls up in the air. Now that's not everyone, right? And I'll share that, having the balance and the people in your life that can bring out the best in you is just such a critical aspect of that. And being fine-tuned enough to know when you need to take time for yourself, when you need to take, time. And I joke, I have a mom hat and I have a rabble hat, and I've gotten very good at being able to take one off and put the other on. And you have to get selfish about your own time, because otherwise you're not serving anyone well. And that works both for, the professional aspect of who you are, but also the personal aspect. Great questions. Stay disciplined. Well, I think part of it is that figuring out what charges you, right? Like there's this analogy that I often like to use about, just kind of, again, breaking things down back to their core. And it's this gateway between 2 points. And on the left, you might have intent. So is your intent good? What's the intent the question, what's the intent of my customer? What's the intent of, my parents on the soccer field, et cetera. And then it's the impact. And if you are unable to measure impact, that's a problem, right? Because then you're just kind of, trying all sorts of different things. So you're not staying disciplined around the impact. But if you have a way to measure impact and your intent is spot on, then it's just the approach that needs to change, right? And so I think that that's a really nice kind of balanced way of kind of thinking about staying disciplined, is that, it's a reset of, my intent is to make a difference in this world, or my intent is to, give to my kids, or my intent is to, really see this type of change. And my intent is to actually start this company. And if I get to this point that I know there's some leading indicators that it's something that we can start moving forward with, and it's a balanced approach with my, with my family. And so when I think of discipline, I think it's really being able to say, okay, what's the impact that I want to have? How do I measure it? And how do I think about creatively about different approaches to make sure that I take a balanced approach? So great questions. Hopefully I answered, I think I answered most of them. Are there any more?
I think that's all. Thank you so much for your time and your amazing advice that you gave to these students. So we'll be moving on to our next and last speaker for today. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Okay. So our third speaker for today would be Miss Preeti Padmanabhan. She is a seasoned technology executive with experience in engineering, sales, and marketing. She is currently a Senior Director, Platform Product Marketing at Freshworks. Her past roles include VP of Marketing at Penzura and Director of Marketing at Nutanix. She's an investor with Portfolio, How Women Invest, and serves as a board director for Nextstem.ai. She's the host of 10 Times Growth Strategies, the podcast, and has featured popular Silicon Valley CXOs and investors as guests. She has served on various nonprofit boards focused on economic empowerment, women, children, and education. Preeti also enjoys singing, meditating, and traveling. So let's go ahead and welcome Miss Preeti.
Thank you, Sahana. Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to speak with all of you today. So I typically like to make my session experiential for everybody. So what I ask of you, let's take about 30 seconds and you can all close your eyes. And then imagine if you are, say, in your 10th, 11th, or 12th grade later in your high school, imagine what it is going to be 3 years from now. You graduated high school. Or if you were earlier, 8th or 9th, imagine 5 years from now. You graduated high school. What is it that you see as your future? You're in the college that you wanted to be and pursuing the degree that you wanted. Just see yourself out there doing what you want to do. And feel that empowerment within you. Feel that energy that comes inside you when you see yourself already doing what you want to do. Take a deep breath in and breathe out. And you can open your eyes. So that was a visioning exercise. So in my career, as you saw, I have been in several roles, engineering roles, product management roles, and product marketing roles. I've been able to transition to new roles almost every 2 years. For me, learning, impact, and innovation are very important. So my first question to you is, have you identified what are your top 3 things that you want in your STEM career? Take some time to think about it after this session. What are the 3 things that you want in your career when you graduate high school and go into college? And then, of course, once you go into college, you can think about it once you graduate college. What are your 3 important things? So once I identified that, I was able to make those transitions and land into my dream jobs. I would always think about when I was an engineer, I was thinking, I would love to get into the business side. And that was something that I want to be in front of customers. I want to present. That was my vision. That was my dream. And once I actually understood what my dream was, I worked backwards from that dream to look at what are all the 5 to 10 things I need to acquire as skills to go make that dream happen. So you can do that too. And like that, when I moved from engineering to product, I did the same from product to marketing. So I did the same level of understanding of the marketing role. And not just doing it passively. You're not just reading up about the marketing, which is all important. You can read up about what does a product marketer do, what does a product manager do, whatever role you want to, or what an engineer does. At the same time, you got to go and talk to people who are doing that. Like right now, as you are applying to college, if you have a list of 10 colleges that you are looking to apply to, go and talk to students who are studying in that college. You can easily reach out to alumni relations or actually the student relations within the college, and then they will help you connect with current students. So that way you're able to connect and learn their experiences. So it's very important to connect to the people who've already done what you want to do. Right? So that is another second piece of thing. After you identify your top 3 goals and then you go after it, meet people who are doing that right now. So those were some of the things that I did. A few things that I experimented in my career, besides experimenting within a company where I moved from multiple different roles, I also started 2 companies unsuccessfully. And I have to actually, I'm very proud about it because failure is certainly a big learning opportunity. I started 2 companies. One was a company for learning for children. And then the second one was a meeting planning company, right? Where you're able to book meeting rooms in hotels and other meeting spaces. I did the companies for about 1 to 2 years each. Unfortunately, I either did not have the right team, or I did not understand the market, or there wasn't a big enough opportunity. Right? So those were all things I discovered. But as a result of that exercise, I was able to bring it back to my actual job. I had joined 3 startups in the last 8 years. I worked across 3 different startups. And each of those scenarios, I was able to apply the learning lessons from those 2 failures that I went into. The other thing I would say is, besides your career, also consider having 1 or 2 different passion projects. You might actually get some of your interests fulfilled in your career, but it is possible that you have way more creativity and energy in yourself. So in that case, like how Sahana is doing this wonderful project, kudos to her for bringing us together. See what passion project you can do. For me, it was going and starting new nonprofit chapters. So I started the My Helping Hands chapter, where we raised about $500,000 for orphans and women in India. So that was a wonderful experience for me to help and give back to the community. So think about what are you passionate about and look at doing something in addition to your actual work. So that is what I would say as some of the key takeaways I would start with. I would love to answer any questions you have. Sahana, should I take questions from the document you sent?
You can take the questions in the chat because I feel like we have a few coming in, like Berna sent one just now.
Okay. How can you connect with people? Okay, excellent. Two great questions. So, when you are connecting with people, you can start by like, first of all, right, it depends on the context. Say if you're connecting with somebody at an event, um, then you can go and introduce yourself in 1 or 2 lines and introduce what you do. I'm a student in such and such high school. I am interested in a career in STEM. And then you make your ask after that, right? You say, like, I would love to connect with you to learn more about how you built your career in STEM. So you can have, first of all, before, as you are working towards connecting with people, if you have an opportunity to know the person ahead of time, you can look at LinkedIn to see what they do, so that you can even bring that up. You can say, I see that you are working with AI/ML, or you are working with robotics or IoT, whatever that might be. I would love to learn about it. So that way they immediately latch on to something that you are interested and they're interested. You're finding a common ground in that particular context. So that is in person. The other way you can connect is through a friend, right? So or through even a parent, right? So you might want to approach some new people that you're connected through somebody else. So in that case, you can write a small introduction about yourself and then ask that person to then forward it to the other connection you want to make. So that is the second way you can think about. And then the third way is more a cold way of approaching, which is through LinkedIn, right? So in LinkedIn, there is a less chance of getting response, but sometimes you may. It depends on how strong of a message you give and how passionate the other person is with what you're saying. But you can still do that. That is another option for you, to go through LinkedIn and share the same message. So did that answer your question, Bernice? The first question? Okay, great. Okay, how can you create a passion project? First of all, is to identify what you're passionate about. And, you can see, how do you identify a passion? And I think already I heard, Sangeeta talk about it a little bit, right? What makes you happy? If there is something that makes you happy when you do it, is it going and doing nonprofit work, or is it going and doing something artful, like whatever it might be, right? What makes you happy? And once you identify that, you will then actually be able to go and look online about other people who have similar interests, or other organizations that are actually pursuing the same, and then be part of those organizations, or even start an organization, right? So those are the different options. But first of all, to create a passion project, you need to understand what makes you happy. And I think maybe you're also asking about how to create, what are the logistics, right? I think that depends. If it is you're interested in creating a nonprofit, then that might involve some, finding some ways by which you can fund the nonprofit and raise money, or you have to register the nonprofit. Those are some of the things that you can think about. Or, if it is a matter of creating a passion project, like creating a meetup, it might be as simple as hosting a meetup on the meetups.com. So you have to determine based on what you're passionate about. Then you can go and find out or make a list of the steps, right? And of course, whatever I said earlier, if you find other people who are also passionate about it, connecting with them, coming back to the prior question, you could then create that synergy with the other person to pursue it further. Okay. The third question I see is, one advice you would give us high schoolers. This is an advice I not only give high schoolers, I give to all women, including myself. Believe in yourself. Oftentimes, it is possible that you might be in a room where you are around people who don't look like you, who don't speak like you, or have way more experience than you. But you are there for a reason. You are there because you belong. Do not at any moment doubt your capacity. That is very important. Know that you have a seat at the table and make sure you believe in yourself. And if sometimes, right, all of us have those moments when we take projects above what we are used to, and we can doubt, oh, can I really do that? Then, like what Sangeeta and shared earlier, surround yourself with people who believe in you, so that they will keep making sure they tell you again and again that you have to believe in yourself. The next one, how do you overcome fear of failure? Okay, so this is something that I actually, I have a tendency to attend some motivational series and workshops that I really love to keep myself motivated. So I have attended some workshops where I have actually, come across some of these frameworks. So one of this is for fear of failure is to look at it like a dance. See, you see the fear, you just imagine that you're dancing with that fear. If the fear takes you a certain direction, then see if you can actually dance with that fear and bring it to where you want it to be, right? That is one. The other is certainly by meditation. For me, meditation is a key way by which I am able to keep my center. Even when I'm afraid, I go and meditate, my mind calms down, and I then take it one step at a time. Right. So you can actually, if you look at the whole thing that you have to do 10 things to achieve what you want, then it can seem daunting and fearful. But if you just start with one step, that is less fearful. So those are few tips that you can take away. Okay. Any other questions?
I think a question one of the students had sent in earlier was that, did you have any challenges when you started your startup? I think you mentioned this before, that you had two unsuccessful startups. So like, how did you like overcome that challenge, and what are some other obstacles you had to go and face?
Yeah. So in the first startup, the challenge that I had was I actually was pursuing an idea for children's education. And while I was pursuing funding, I was going to raise money. The advice I got was I need to make it a nonprofit because it was an education focused startup. And fundraising is a big piece for entrepreneurs to make their startup successful, unless of course they have a bucket load of money on their hands already. You do have to go raise money, right? So that was a challenge I had. And the fact is that, and not to throw a damper here, the truth is only 2% of the entire venture capital money gets invested in women. And that is something that I am very determined to change. And that's why I joined Portfolio and How Women Invest, who are two women-focused funds that invest only in women, right? So that was one challenge I had, which is I could not raise money. So now I am supporting entrepreneurs who want to raise money, and we are really going and helping these companies even get their exits, like getting sold to other companies. 3 of the 10 startups that we have invested in How Women Invest have already been acquired, right? So those are some ways by which I'm going to change and help others to not encounter the challenge I did, right? For the second startup, the challenge I had was that making sure that the team that I had was the right team. And that is a big, big lesson, right? Because wherever you go, if you are with people who are not the right people for the startup or the company or your team, they can pull you down, right? They can disrupt or, not be effective in helping you grow the startup. So that's very important. Whenever you are starting a company or joining a company, make sure you know the team members. You have an opportunity to also interview the people who are interviewing you, right? Understand them in a way that asking the right questions and asking the hiring manager or person who you're going to work with, like what are their priorities, what are the way they work in a team. So you can also ask those questions, right? You can be courageous and ask those questions. So that is very important. So those are the two lessons, challenges I got from that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Preeti, for your amazing advice and amazing tips to upcoming entrepreneurs. I think we can go ahead and open up the Q&A segment for all of our speakers. We do have a few questions that students have already sent in, but does anyone have any general questions that they would like each of the mentors to answer? Okay. So someone in the chat has asked, what do you look for in a candidate when you hire them, and how important is a reputable college on their resume? So we can have each of the mentors go ahead and answer this, and Preeti, since you're already on the stage, you can go ahead and start.
Yes. So I look for curiosity and willingness to learn. That is very important. In fact, when given a choice between skills, existing skills, versus somebody who has the right attitude to learn, I would always pick somebody who has that learning mindset, the growth mindset. And if any of you have heard of the book Mindset, that is, that's a really powerful book. Do check that out and read about it. So that is one key thing. I'll pass it on to the other speakers to answer.
Yeah, I might not be too popular, with this response, but I don't think that for it depends on your career that you want within STEM. Your undergrad doesn't make as much of a difference as it does in terms of a brand recognized graduate program. And I'll just share that, from a perspective of, if you're going the PhD route, if you're going the kind of MBA route, the institutes that have brand recognition do a lot. Excuse me, I have my dogs here with me, so I think you just showed up, but they do a lot to help cultivate internships. They do a lot to help cultivate career progression from that perspective. And so I went to University of Colorado, but in a branch in Colorado called Colorado Springs for my master's of biology, largely because I wanted a career at the Olympic Training Center. And so I worked as and I got an internship from that program through University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. So I was part of the Olympic Training Center sports science team for USA Swimming. So I would share that it's really important, as some of the other speakers have also highlighted, do your homework, figure out the steps that you want to take to get to your next level, and then identify the academic programs that you feel will help position you for that goal. And so it's not just a big push to get into the brand, recognized, let's say, institutions, but it's really about the stepping stones that you want to actually place to actually get to where you want to go. And so I had highlighted as well, I got to a point too where I was actually going to be going back either for my PhD or my MBA, and I chose to go for my MBA. And I explicitly chose to go for UCLA because it is a brand recognizable institution. And so as you move into your career, don't be afraid to go to the community college. Don't be afraid to get additional certification programs, but also recognize that your choice of institution should be in service of your overall goals and the direction that you want to pursue. Great question.
Thank you so much. Sangeeta, do you want to add on?
Yeah, absolutely. See, going to a good college, it's training wheels for the life that's ahead, right? That's how I would think of it, right? It's training wheels in the sense if you work hard to get into a good college, that gives you more practice in training wheels before you join your first job, etc., or take up your first position and go from there. Life is a series of experiences. What the college is that you graduate from, etc., while it does give you, not to sugarcoat it, it does give you a lift to come out of a really good college in terms of being considered for the right opportunities and being looked at for the right opportunities that you want to be considered for. Ultimately, it's the experiences that you go through and the value system you inculcate in yourself that matters more. So getting into a good college means working really hard to get in there, and then doing well in college means getting good grades. Those experiences, those learnings, those values you assimilate, that's what's going to take you forward through the rest of your career. So I would focus more on that than the specific college you got into. Uh, does that help?
Yep, thank you so much. If there's no other questions in the chat, we have a question that was sent in earlier. So what is the ratio of male to female in your workplace? And does this ratio positively or negatively impact you? I'll just go ahead and put in the chat so it's easier for you all to read that.
Yes.
Sangeeta, do you want to start?
Sure, absolutely. So, in the 19 plus years I have been at Microsoft, these ratios have changed significantly. 19 years back, if you had talked to me, I would have told you that there are women in Microsoft, there are women even in leadership roles, but the percentage would have been less than 5%. The industry all up, and Microsoft definitely is making a big push to be diverse and inclusive. And it makes an honest difference in the workplace to have people from various walks of life, various cultures, men and women come together to try to solve problems. So right now, the ratio of leaders, women leaders in Microsoft is topping 20%, 15 to 20%, which is a great place to be in because we're making conscious efforts to invest in women leaders, to grow them, to make sure that they're set up for success. We've got great benefits packages for women. I remember when being a nursing mother, I was so thankful to have a mother's room where I could go and express milk for my child and yet take phone calls and drive meetings from that room. Right. So it's a really awesome opportunity. And it's, as I think in industry right now, the awareness is there that diverse, inclusive environments are more productive, effectively more profitable in the end. So and does the ratio positively and negatively impact you? You will still find situations where you're one woman in a very large crowd. You will still find situations where you are more than a few women, but still in a male-dominated crowd, right? The important thing is to learn to hold your own, right? As in, be confident, be calm, be poised in how you conduct yourself, and be principled in how you conduct yourself. And I find, barring the occasional jerks that always exist, respect automatically follows. So just remember to, reflect on your strengths and draw from your inner inspiration and be yourself. And the ratios are a matter of time. They're going to change even further positively. At least that's my hope. And you'll do really well if you draw from your inner strengths.
I'll add to that. So about a couple of years ago in our company, the typical industry standard for overall population of women is about 17 to 20%. That's what we find in the Googles of the world. And our company, Freshworks, was in the same boat. So the leadership, we all took the whole goal to get it to at least a third of the whole company. So in the last couple of years, we have achieved over 35% of women across the company. We are a company of about 5,500 people now. So that certainly has been a step in the right direction. And secondly, even in the leadership, like what Sangeeta was talking about, getting to that 15 to 20% was very important to hire more women leaders, right? So that is where I think the world is headed. And I think it's great for several of you to be interested in going towards STEM careers and STEM companies. And it's only going to go more and it's going to increase as we go forward.
And I would just, add that there's the there's the mix of males to females in terms of hires, but there's also the C-suite mix, right? In biopharma, it's still 92% men. And so, I share that because we have work to do in the context of being able to ensure that, again, if it does go back to profitability, right? And if teams and if companies are more profitable with appropriate diversity, and they're actually pulling in appropriate diverse opinions to be able to draw the profit, engage in long-term profitability, then why aren't we seeing that? And so I think that there's an opportunity for female leaders to work harder, to grow our base, to be able to mentor our base, to be able to ensure the right pivot points are anchored in true skill sets, and also being very true to ourselves, right? And I'll just share in the health tech space, women make 80% of all healthcare decisions. Like, fun fact, like, we're powerhouses, right? And so it's like, we should also be leading solutions that are anchored in terms of health technologies, right? And so I think that there's just a huge opportunity of understanding how we can help navigate the professional world, how we can help support one another in the context of ensuring not only is there parity in terms of male to female employees, but also that there's parity at the senior levels as well.
Thank you so much. That's some amazing insight from all three of you. And I think we're going to be wrapping it up with that last question. So I'm just going to go ahead and share this last slide here. So I want to give a huge round of applause to all three of our speakers for taking time out of their weekend to come here and speak about their careers and give advice to all of us. So what are the next steps? So we'll be sending out a form to all of you that attend this webinar and those who are interested. And the form will be asking questions regarding your interest and what you're looking for to get out of this mentoring opportunities. Our three mentors will go ahead and review the applicants and select two of them. Each of them will select two to mentor for the Fall 22 cohort, which will last for around 6 months. And our next webinar will be in January with 3 brand new speakers. So I want to give a huge round of applause to our speakers, and thank you all so much for attending.
Great job, Sahana.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sahana.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Great job, Sahana. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Nice to talk to all of you.